Hello and welcome to the Ancestral Craft podcast. This is episode 2, the long-awaited episode, I'm sure, for some. I've had such overwhelming support from my first episode and I am so grateful. It's been a whirlwind, to be honest. So many people reaching out and connecting and sending their warm wishes. And it just reminds me what a beautiful community we have here over on the knitting side of YouTube. And I would really like to thank Loretta and Natalia from the Knit My Way Home podcast. If you haven't checked them out, you should definitely do that. They were kind enough on the very day that I posted my first episode. They wished me luck and they sent me a pattern on Ravelry, and it's the Gardener's Prayers glove, I think is what it's called. But it really touched me that someone would go out of their way to do that and send a pattern that really spoke to my heart. So thank you, both of you, for sending that support. And also thank you to everybody else who also shared their support just through comments. And yeah, I'm just so thankful. It's taken me a while to post my second episode. It's been very busy with work and, life gets in the way sometimes. And at first I thought my creative projects were going too slow and I didn't think I had much to share. But now I find myself in the situation as I'm staring at all of the things I've got around me that I've let myself get too much, and now it feels a bit overwhelming to get through it all, but I'm sure we will get there. So I'm trying a new setup. I'm using my camera, which lets me film in about 20-minute installments, and I have a microphone. I did get a few comments on my last video saying people struggled to hear me, and I really listened to that, and I want to make this as accessible as possible. I was using my iPad the last time, which was easy to do because I could see myself, which I can't now, so I'm hoping everything's in frame. But I think this microphone's a little bit too good, so now you're probably going to hear the busy traffic of Leith. But yes, it's a bit of a case of one or the other until I figure out how to get the noise just right. But I hope you'll bear with me as I navigate this tech world that I'm really not used to. So yeah, I hope you've all got a lovely warm drink and that you've got something to knit on or craft on. And I hope this episode finds you well. I know winter has been quite cold in some areas of the world. I'm thinking of Canada in specific. I've seen some very cold weather through some knitters in Canada. Unfortunately, we haven't had much cold weather here in Scotland. Autumn was cold, but winter so far has not hit, which has been quite apparent through my work. I get to see that a lot through plants that are starting to flower or set leaf, and it's been very mild in Scotland, and yeah, it's a bit, the anticipation of when winter will hit, if it does, is a bit strange. So yes, I've been working a lot, making the most of the weather while we have it. So yes, I think we should just get into it. There's a lot to cover. I'm drinking some rooibos tea with some oat milk and some homemade elderberry syrup. I made some syrup last autumn with some elderberries and some sea buckthorn, which grows all along the east coast of Scotland abundantly. And so this is what I've been drinking. It's been great for the immune system, especially as a lot of sickness is going around at the minute. It's important to keep our immune systems nice and healthy. So I'm drinking this to ease my mind as we navigate this world of podcasting. I have a timer on my phone just so I know when it's going to cut out, so I apologize if I do look down. But yes, I think that's all the formalities out of the way. I will stop apologizing, and yes, I'm sure it will be fine. So I'll start with some finished objects. So last time that I podcasted, I was sharing a hat that I was knitting, and I finished it quite a while ago, actually. I finished it not long after that podcast was aired. My camera doesn't focus, unfortunately, so I can't bring it closer, but I will insert some footage of it close up, or I'll insert a picture of me wearing it. So it's basically just a very simple 1x1 rib. Then it went into a 2x2 rib with, I don't know if there's a term for this, I just kind of did it. I've never learned how to do it, so I don't know if it's a stitch pattern that already exists. I'm sure it does. But it was just 3 stitches, and I think one row was all knit stitches, and the next one was knit, purl, knit, and then so on and so on. So it has a nice texture. So it goes like that, and I just fold it up. And yeah, it's very warm. It's knit in Let Lopi, and I think it's the moss colorway, but I will check that. And yeah, it's a bit itchy if you're sensitive to wool, so I probably wouldn't recommend it for anyone who does have a sensitivity. But for me, I don't really mind. And it doesn't have to touch my forehead either because of my fringe, so that's always a good thing. And yeah, so there's not much more to say about that other than it's finished and it's nice and warm and it does its job. So the next finished object is one that you haven't seen yet. This is one that I cast on over Christmas, and it is a heavily modified, I think it's called the Ballet Neck Warmer by Monique Chan, and I will have that in the description below. So this was modified. It's originally just a neck warmer that kind of goes down to about here. It's one of these collars, I guess you would say, that you put on under your clothes. And I will put this on now actually, so you can see it. And I knit it with a belt. And I will explain how I did that. So this is just a little tunic. And yeah, so it has, I don't usually wear it like this, but I like the option of being able to tuck my chin in. But it's got a 2x2 rib collar, which I just tuck in, and it was knit on, I think, 5mm needles. And yeah, I like to fold it in and just have it like this. This is really warm, and this is knit in Nutiden, no surprise there. And this is there, I think it's the raw colorway. I will check that also. I'm not as prepared as I thought I was, but I will have that in below. So basically how I modified this is I just basically used the cast on recommendations and knit for longer. So instead of stopping here, I just kept going, and on the front I left it like that, and it has a garter edging, just I think 3 rows of garter at the bottom, just so it lays flat, and it has the same at the back. The only difference between the back panel and the front panel is just after the shoulders I made some increases so that it would cover more of my back. So the back is larger and it's also longer. So instead of doing short row shaping at the neck, all I did was I knit for longer so that it sits higher and finishes at the same place. Yeah, it was hectic with, you know, everything going on, and I didn't really want to do short rows. And it works fine. I don't think it makes a difference. It still sits nicely up on my neck and there's no gathering or anything. So yeah, this is, yes, a really lovely piece. And I do realize that I forgot to mention what I am wearing. So I will take this off because it's quite warm, and this is really, really warm. Maybe a bit too warm for being inside at this temperature. So yeah, that is my little tunic. You can see quite well here how the back is longer than the front. And I will insert some footage of a close-up of that. So what I am wearing, this is the Adiantum jumper by Kelly. Oh, it's Kelly something. I don't remember. This was knit a long time ago in the very first lockdown. This is a very special jumper because this is actually the first jumper that I had ever made, which is it was quite adventurous. I'd never knit a jumper. I think I'd knit 1 pair of socks, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna knit a jumper. And when you're new, you don't really think about the difficulty in the same way. You just see it as a challenge and you're like, let's just do it. How hard can it be? And the answer is it was quite hard. It took me quite a while. And this is knit in John Arbon, Alpaca Supreme, I think it was. And it was in the light fawn colorway. I don't think they sell that color anymore. And I think their base has changed slightly to include a silk. You'd have to check that, but I do believe it did change. So yeah, that is the main color, and the colorwork yoke is it's also John Arbon. I think it's their Harvest Hues base in the colorway Ivy. I want to say it's Ivy, but I will have a link in the description if you're interested. and this was really lovely to knit on. It's quite a fitted jumper. It has shaping for the waist, so it's designed to have, well, I don't think it's meant to have any ease at all. I think it's meant to fit just right. And yeah, I really love it. I really love it. It's a bit tight, as you might expect, because of this is my first color work, and I was holding it a bit tight because I was a bit, you know, worried about dropping things. And yeah, so I can still get it on, but it's not the easiest to get over my head. But you know, you don't really have to take it on and off so people don't see the struggle. But yes, it's a really lovely jumper, and yeah, it reminds me of little fern fronds or something, and I think that's what attracted me to the pattern, the fact that it was plant-based and botanically inspired. So yeah, that's about all for that. It was pretty straightforward. There's short row shaping in the back, color work on the sleeves. There's also color work on the hem, but I tend to wear it with high-waisted things, so I don't really notice the bottom part of it. And I don't tend to wear it over things either, so I probably could have just left the hem and saved myself the bother, but you know. Okay, what next? Right, I think that's all of my finished projects. So I'm gonna take a quick pause and then we can get on to whips. Okay, so where should I start? My first whip is a jumper, and this is a Christmas present. I'm sure you're all familiar with knitting Christmas presents after Christmas, but this is for my partner. It's hard to show it because it's on smaller needles and there's not much, smaller cables, sorry, and there's not much to show. But I am knitting the Alfonso jumper by, I think it's by Jarbo. Well, it's published by Jarbo, but I don't think it's designed by them. Oh, I did write it down. It's by Wenke Rolled, and it's a Swedish design, inspired by an old Swedish folk pattern, I think is what it said. And the designer is really inspired by bringing back old patterns and making sure they don't die out. And I thought that was very beautiful. And yeah, it was very nostalgic for my partner to see that style of jumper. So I'm knitting it in Ullcentrum yarn. I have it here. I saw this at Perth Yarn Festival last year, and I wanted to knit it in Swedish wool because it's a Swedish pattern and it's for my partner who is also Swedish. So it felt very, I like to put a lot of intention into the things I make, and it felt right that it would be knit with native sheep to Sweden. And so I remembered seeing the little Swedish flag on the Ullcentrum yarn at Perth Yarn Festival. So I looked it up, and it turns out they make it on a little island called Öland, which is where a lot of people have summer houses in Sweden, and it's where my partner spent a lot of time growing up. And so that kind of just added another layer of specialness to this jumper. So I am knitting it with, I think this is the Anthracite color, and this is called Stone Grey, and this is going to be the body, and then the contrast will be in this color. And hopefully I've put a picture so you can see what the pattern looks like. It's really, really beautiful wool. It's very rustic, very easy to knit with, and it doesn't split or anything. And so far, all I've done is a 1x1 rib, and I've also done, I'd say, about 2.5 inches of just the stockinette. So it's knit bottom up, and then the pattern work is done, and I believe the armholes are steeped. Ooh, sorry about that, that's the timer going off. So yes, I've never steeped anything before. I don't think I read the pattern properly when I cast it on. I didn't realize it was steeped at the arms, but I have faith that I can do it, so I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to take it as it comes. And yeah, I've been knitting on this a bit more. I had to start again. I unfortunately had knit about this much more before I realized that it was too small. I wasn't with my partner over Christmas, so I couldn't try it on. And I had a feeling in my gut that it was too small, but I kind of trusted the measurements and the gauge swatch, but I think there was a discrepancy in the sizes. So yeah, I didn't get that right, which happens. And I think a big part of knitting is being able to accept mistakes and to also accept that things might have to get ripped back sometimes. And yeah, I think it really drove home for me the realization that knitting is in the process, not in the finished object. I think if you become too focused on knitting just for having the object, you lose the main part of it, which is the actual process of knitting it. And you spend more time knitting it really than you do wearing it most of the time. So yeah, it's really important to just accept that these things happen and move on, and it's all fine. But yes, so that is the Alfonso sweater, and hopefully by next time I'll be knitting on this relatively monogamously, so you should be able to see some progress next time. Okay, so the next thing that I've been working on is the Moorland Knits by Tanya Barley. And I've only knit one so far. I haven't started the other one yet because I was busy trying to finish my tunic for the podcast. So I've knit this in Nutiden again. I'm sure you're not surprised. And it's a beautiful knit with some botanical inspiration on the front. I really enjoyed knitting this. It knits up so fast. It's basically garter, no, not garter, pearl bumps. So the inside is stockinette, and it's twisted rib for the stem, and then you make these really fun bobbles with a crochet hook, which is really fun. I wasn't sure how to do it, but once you learn it, it's actually really easy. And it just kind of blows my mind that knitting designers can come up with this stuff. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this. This is knit with the colorway Transparent, which is this one here. And I've had this one for a while. I used it as a contrast color for a jumper that I've knit in the past, and I had some left, so I decided to do something with it. So yeah, these are the Moorland knits, and hopefully, well, I'll probably be finished with the other one by the time the next podcast comes out. So that is also very fun. Just gonna take a drink. Where to go next? That is the question. There's a lot. Okay, so I guess the next thing I will talk about is my progress on the Yowl cardigan, which albeit is not a lot, so don't expect anything finished. So I've been picking out some colours. This seems to be the colour choice I'm going with at the moment. And this is knit with Jamieson's and Smith. Yes, it's just their, I think it's their 2-ply jumper weight. And I have 3 swatches. I kind of got a bit, I haven't started because I'm very indecisive with my colours. The first swatch I made was this one here, and I really didn't like it, but I'll show you it anyway. Yeah, it's very different getting your head around how colour work comes together, but yes, we live and we learn. So I liked it, but I liked some of the colours together. I like this bottom section. I love the orange with the green, but it just felt a bit too much. It just didn't feel right. So I decided to cast on a different swatch, and I came up with this one. Again, I'll try to put some close-ups in, but I like this one more. I love the blue. I think that kind of just broke it up a bit. I used a bit too much of the bracken colorway, so it's not quite right again. But this was a lot closer. This was, so I loved the way all the colors looked on the back. I think it reminds me of an artist in Scotland called Victoria Crowe. She paints the most beautiful, like, shepherdess paintings and beautiful paintings of fires, and she uses a lot of warm winter tones, and this really reminded me of her paintings. So that was my second swatch, closer but not quite there. And then I decided maybe I would try just use colours I was comfortable with, and I came up with this, which isn't the whole swatch, it's just bits and pieces. So I tested out the main body colour work, and I like this. So this is decided. I don't remember the colour names. I think it's sphagnum and lichen. So that's the main part. And I decided to go for some yellows, some blues, just something quite, it reminded me of a bird that we have here in the UK called the golden crest. It's one of the smallest, I think it is the smallest bird in the UK, and it has beautiful yellow on its coat, and yeah, that's what it reminded me of. And there were elements of this I loved. I loved this motif with the squares with the blue dot in the middle, and yeah, I loved this bit, and I really liked this bit with the yellow. So my plan is a mix of all 3, which is a bit, I don't know if I'm going to swatch it with all my plans. I reckon I might just cast it on and take bits from each as I go. So these are my swatches, and my plan is to have, now bear with me because this might get a bit confusing. I would like the bottom section of this one to be on here instead of the purple. So this would be like that. A bit like this. And then I would also like to switch this cubed bit with this one. So this one will be here. And then I'm also just going to take away some of the green. So this bit here, I will add a different color. And also here, I might add yellow or some of the lichen colorway, bring that back in. So yeah, it's not cast on yet, but I have had fun doing the swatches, and I'm sure that will be something I cast on in the coming months. Apologies. I live just outside a junction, and people are quite impatient. So my next thing I'd like to share is, after they're finished, I have spun up, yes, I have spun up 2 skeins of the oath fibre that I have from Alpaca. They're not very big, and that was because I didn't have a big enough bobbin to actually hold all the plied wool, so I had to stop. So instead I have bought the larger flyer for my Ashford wheel, and that should help. So I'm on my third, I'm spinning singles for my third skein, and it's holding it a lot better now. So yes, I think I've still got a fair bit of fibre left. It's still quite full, but I think I'll get 4 skeins, or 4, or like 4.5 to 5. And I've spun this to be DK weight, so I'll have to find a pattern that uses DK weight wool, and I'll have to calculate the meterage of what I've spun to see what patterns I can use. But I really love the colour, and it's spun up really well. I've been spinning this woolen, so I've been carding it into rolags and then spinning from the end, and that's my preferred method at the minute. I don't have any combs, so it's not as easy for me to prepare worsted fibre to spin from. It's possible, but I'm really just enjoying the process of making rolags, to be honest, which I will show you when I share my basket of rolags. So yeah, that's my spun fibre that I've been working on. And the next thing would be this beautiful wool. So these are some of my rolags. I have a basket full. And this is from some of the fleece that I showed you last time. So here's some rolags. Really beautiful. So maybe I can show you like this. Got lovely greys and browns. And this is black cheviot. And I think maybe I kept a lock. So it's black cheviot, it's a beautiful fibre, and this was my first time. Here we are, here's a good lock. Can you see that? Lovely little tufts. And this was my first time preparing my own fleece, and I really relied on this book, which is the Spinner's Book of Fleece, and it's by Beth Smith. And this has a lot of great information on different breeds, and the most important stuff that I've been using is how to prepare the fibre before you spin, and deciding how you will prepare it based on the fibre to be as intentional as possible. And this has been just like a little Bible. I've really loved using that. So I've spun up all my rolags, and I've been using these carders. They're quite old carders. These were given to me when I bought my spinning wheel secondhand. So these have a lot of ancestry in them, so it feels very special to be able to use them. But they are kind of wearing away, so maybe I'll try fix these up in a while. So yeah, I've been carding the rolags, and that will be my next project on the spinning wheel once I finish the wool I've just shown you. And yes, so that's from my spinning wheel. And the other thing that I've been doing is a lot of dyeing, which if you follow me on Instagram, I'm sure you've seen all of the fiber that I've been dyeing up. I have some in the background. I will briefly go over some of the things I've dyed, and as quickly as possible because there's a lot. So I started off dyeing, let me find them, dyeing these two. So this, I bought a cone of Jameson's 2-ply, and it's given me, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. About 8 or 9 actually. 8 or 9 skeins of wool to be able to dye. And I think it was about £30. So that's actually really good value. And I mordanted this with alum. And this is from Dock Seeds. So if you know Dock, it's Rumex, and they have the most beautiful seeds, and they get a lovely orange color. I believe you can get a deeper color than this, but I kind of made do with what I had collected, and I'll insert some footage of when I collected that, which was this Christmas actually, when I was down visiting my mum and my brother in Yorkshire. I had a lot of this growing around the fields, so I collected some and brought it back. So that was Dock, and then the next thing I experimented with was ash bark. So unfortunately, ash trees are actually under a lot of danger in the UK. A fungus is killing them off with ash dieback. And this, so please do not take from live trees, because we don't want to open wounds on the trees where that fungus can get in. I had access to ash bark because during the recent storm we had on the east coast of Scotland, a lot of branches fell down and there was a lot of damage. So I used what was given to me, just some stumps that I sawed the bark off of, and it's given a beautiful color. It's a very warm yellow brown, and unfortunately I have misplaced the other skein that I dyed with ash bark. It is here somewhere, but I couldn't find it, and I didn't want to put this off any longer in case the light faded, but I'll insert a picture. So I made some iron water, and well, from some rusty nails that I found at work, and I added that to the dye bath after I had dyed a skein, and it gave a beautiful ash color which felt quite fitting, a beautiful green, which I'm sure I'll have figured out how to show you. But yes, it's really beautiful with the Dock color. I think they go really beautifully together. My next skein was with a plant we have here called sweet woodruff, Gallium odoratum, and this gave a beautiful pink. I had a feeling it might dye pink because it's in the plant family Rubiaceae, and if you don't know anything about plant families, madder is also in Rubiaceae. So I had a feeling that they might give similar colors, which is a red. So I was weeding the sweet odoratum, the gallium, the sweet woodruff. I'm mixing names now. And I took the roots before composting them and boiled them up, and this is what I got. And it's a beautiful pink. The next one I did was weld. So the weld plant, I used the dried roots, or no, dried leaves and seeds, that's what I used for this. And weld, English weld, gives you a beautiful yellow. And I kept a bit of the original. This is the original yellow, which is beautiful and very bright. but I knew that I could get green if I added iron, and I didn't have enough skeins to keep one full skein of the yellow, then one full skein of the green. So I dyed up some lace weight. This is Ullcentrum yarn, just their lace color. Their lace weight yarn in the neutral color. And so these are the colors. This was the second dip. This was part of the first dip in the vat. And I added iron. So these were the same color. This was also yellow, but when you add the iron, magic happens and it created this beautiful green. And I must say, this is my favorite. So yeah, that is weld. I'm going to take a pause before I get into the madder because there's a lot. There's a lot of wool. So the madder plant was very exciting and it gave so much colour. I ran out of wool that I had mordanted. I mordanted it all with alum. So this was the first dip in the vat, which is a very bright red. It's so beautiful. And then I believe, yes, this is the second dip in the vat, which is just a tone lighter and also really stunning. And then, okay, yeah, so I dipped this one in the vat next. These ones haven't been skeined up because they're still a bit damp, so they're still drying. This was the third dip in the vat, but I added iron to this one, and that dulled the color down and made a beautiful dusty rose color. So that was that. I'll have it over my shoulder. And then the next one I did was this one. This was the fourth dip in the vat, so we're getting lighter and lighter. And the last one was, I wasn't sure if this would work, to be honest, but I used the roots that had already been extracted and I added them to a pot, and in specific it was a copper pot. So I'll show off my pots in a minute because I do love my dyeing pots. But this was put in a copper pot, and the metal of the copper is also a modifier, and it made this beautiful peachy color. And this one with the green is probably up there with my favorites. So that is what I've been dyeing. Just pop that back up. Yes, so a basket full of dyed wool. and I will show my pots quickly. This is a very niche part of the podcast, but in case you're interested, these are the pots that I found at a charity shop nearby. And this one is just, I think it's just steel, because, yeah, it's steel. And it's great. I mean, it's got this handle and it's got a little lid with a lip, so you can just pour things like that. And it's a big pot, and it's got a lot of love in it. And this one is, well, here's my dye spoon, which is covered in madder. This is the copper pot that I was talking about, which is also beautiful. And this was also found at a charity shop. And yes, it's really rustic. And I love that just by using the pot and having the dye vat in it, I'm modifying it. It really just cuts down on having to make copper water or something. And yeah, it's really fun just by using different metals that I can modify colours. So that is that. And I also used some wool that I found in a charity shop nearby. This is labelled as Shetland, Aran weight Shetland. I can't check because it didn't have a label. But it's just some neutral wool, and I think it was only a couple of pounds for each. So this was great for practicing natural dyeing, because I didn't have to be too precious with the wool. And it's always great to find charity shop finds like that. Okay, so I guess we will talk about a little nature craft that I did. It's going to be quite hard to show, but I'll add some footage. This is a little woven, well, I guess you could call it a basket. It's a little bowl, really, and I used this with some leaves that I had pruned from plants at work. So the base is woven from New Zealand flax, which is Phormium tenax, and then I used some grass, just some long grass. I don't know what type of grass because it wasn't flowering, to weave around that to secure it. And then I used crocosmia, and then I used iris leaves, back to the crocosmia, more iris leaves, and then I made a border with the uprights, which is the New Zealand flax again. This was difficult. I'm getting the weaving technique down, but I found the border really tricky, and that's partly because of the material. The New Zealand flax is not very flexible, and it's quite angular, so I tried to make it a design feature with the angles popping out like that. But yeah, I'm very happy with this. It's just a little something that I've been making in my spare time. Not too much to say about it, but yeah, I think I'll use this to put stitch markers in or something. And yeah. Okay, so we're slowly getting through it. Another little nature thing that I've been doing is collecting fallen pine leaves. So I've got a few bunches stored in here, and I foraged these when I went mushroom foraging with my partner, and we found some oyster mushrooms on that foraging day, which was really exciting, and they were really tasty. Maybe I'll insert a picture of that. But yeah, so I'm drying these out because they're fresh. Well, they were before they fell, and I'll dry these out first, and then I'll rehydrate them when I'm ready to weave with them. So I will probably be making another pine needle basket, which will be nice because these ones are green. They haven't dried out naturally on the tree, so they'll stay relatively green, and that will be really interesting to see what that looks like. Yeah, I also have a box of onion skins, which I've been collecting as I've been cooking, and that will also be something I dye with in the future. Once I collect a few more, I will boil them up and hopefully get an orange dye. So we will see about that. And lastly, I think that's all the things I'm working on. I think. Yes. So the last thing I'd like to share is some acquisitions and also some details about a giveaway. I will start with the acquisition that is related to the giveaway. So for Christmas, as a treat to myself, I bought myself a new spindle, and this is a supported spindle, which is something I've never used before. I've only used suspended spindles, and I found this on Etsy and it was so beautiful. This is made out of yew, and so is the whorl on the spindle, and I think it's sycamore, I believe, the shaft of the spindle. And I've been spinning some indigo dyed Shetland wool on this, which has been really fun. And as I was looking through their shop, I saw that they also sold Jalligans. So Jalligans, as I mentioned in my last episode, are the traditional Scottish spindle, and I purchased one. And this is something I would like to give away to celebrate reaching over 2,000 subscribers already, just from one episode, which just blows my mind. I'd like to give away this spindle. I've engraved it. I'll get a close-up, but I've engraved it with the Ogham symbol for oak, which is what this is made out of, oak wood. And oak wood in Celtic mythology and in Celtic culture is a very sacred tree. It's the king of the trees. It was revered, and the Ogham alphabet is an ancient alphabet that the Celts used, and each letter of the alphabet was a tree. So this is Dúr, that is its Celtic name, the oak. And I've engraved that on the top. And I'm also giving away some wool to try spinning on it. And this is Shetland wool dyed with elderberries. And this was from an Etsy shop called Highland Colour, I believe. And yes, very special, and I hope one of you will enjoy this. So I'm giving away the spindle and the wool, and it's just something small. I'd love to give away more in the future, but for now I'd like to just give this as a token of my appreciation for all the support that I've been given. And yeah, so all that I ask is, if you want to enter the giveaway, in the comments, please just tell me what your favorite plant is and why. I'd love to hear from all around the world what plants we all love. And if you don't have a favorite plant and you've never really thought about plants, take this as an opportunity to just go outside and find one and tell me a plant that you've just learned about. And yeah, I will pick a winner for the next episode, or maybe before that, depending on how long it takes me to upload again. But yes, so that's the giveaway. Comment below, and yeah, I'll pick a winner. So the last thing that I'd like to show is this, which was a gift from my mum for Christmas. And this is an Inco loom, and I want to learn tablet weaving. So that is that's why I've been dyeing some natural wool, because I want to use plant dyed wools to weave a belt or a bracelet or something. It's still quite sticky because I've just waxed it. But yeah, so this is something I'll be doing in the future. I'm waiting on my weaving cards to come, and then I will be giving this a go. I'm really excited to try weaving. I really, really love weaving. But I've never done it with wool or an ankle loom at that. So I'm really excited to give that a go. So I will be doing that in the coming months. And yeah, I think that is pretty much everything. I hope that was okay, that you understood all my ramblings and that you've enjoyed this time talking about crafts together. And thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on Ravelry, which a lot of you have. I will work on making my Ravelry up to date, which is something I'm guilty of. And I will also add more project information. Yeah, and you can also find me on Instagram, which is at alex.juliet. I post some behind the scenes things there. And I also want to mention that I will be starting a Patreon, hopefully this week, midweek this week in particular. And I will be having some behind the scene footage of how to make things, some more instructional videos, some plant information. I plan to have some herbalism content, a plant of the month, a herb of the month. And the first thing I'll be posting is how to make a St. Bridget's cross. Imbolc is coming up, which is the midway point between the winter solstice and the spring solstice. And we celebrate Brigid, who is a Celtic goddess. And she is the fire, she's the spring, she's the craftswoman. She was a blacksmith. She's a very fitting goddess for this podcast. And I'll be showing you how to make a cross with rushes, but you can use any other material. And I'll be doing that craft outdoors in the forest, showing you how to make some cord to tie things, which will make sense when you see how to make it. So I hope that some of you will join me over on Patreon. I'll have, I think, about 2 different tiers. I haven't decided fully yet, but it will take me a little while to just get the content up. But look out for this week. I'll post on my Instagram when that goes live, and it would mean a lot if you could support me. But even if you can't, I really appreciate that you follow my journey here on YouTube, and I really hope that this episode doesn't disappoint. I had such an overwhelming response to my first episode, and I hope that this new setup wasn't too confusing and that it edits together well, which is what I will do tonight. But I will leave you with some footage of some nature and, oh yes, some footage of a permaculture farm up in Scotland on the west coast, where I'll be holding a retreat this summer, teaching how to process wool and spin it up on Jalagan spindles. And we'll be using wool from the fleece that is on the farm from the sheep, the Boer raised sheep, which are a rare Scottish breed. And yeah, that's very exciting, and I'll post more details about that on Instagram. And yeah, that's about everything. So I hope you all enjoy the winter. I'll probably see you in spring. And I hope the weather is kind and that we are all kinder. And yes, I'm sending lots of love, and thank you for joining me again. Take care. Bye now.